And to everybody present here. We'd like to apologize for the slight delay, technical delay. So we'll be beginning the seminar therefore. Welcome to Kathmandu University School of Arts, National Seminar on Indigenous Research and Communication Theories. This seminar aims to bring indigenous research and communication theories into a discursive paradigm through diverse lens of expertise. Today's program will feature 3 sessions which include topics such as philosophical approaches to communication, communication traditions in Nepal and Asia, and language, literature, and philosophy. It is a moment of great pleasure for us, members of Kathmandu University School of Arts, to welcome you all to this gathering this morning. My name is Disha Thapa.
My name is Paul Adhikari.
And we are your hosts for the day. So we'd like to formally begin the session by calling upon our session chairperson, Associate Professor Dr. Nirmal Adhikari, Head of Department of Languages and Mass Communication at Kathmandu University. Dr. Nirmal Adhikari is an Associate Professor and the Head of Department of Languages and Mass Communication at KU. A renowned communication theorist, he developed the Sudurpaschim model of communication and Sanchar Yoga theory. His interdisciplinary work bridges communication through theory and Hinduism. Dr. Adhikari is also a prolific author, having authored over 60 books and 75 research articles, many included in international curricula. Formerly a journalist, he held editorial roles before transitioning into academia. He has led major media research projects, designed curricula, and conducted journalism and research methodology training. Honored globally, he was named the Best International Media Researcher in 2022 and is the Chief Editor of Budi Journal. Moving on, our chief guest for today, Mr. T.N. Joshi, Vice Chancellor, Sudurpaschim, Prajna Pratisthan. Dr. T.N. Joshi, Dr. Joshi is the Vice Chancellor of Sudurpaschim Pratisthan. As a distinguished academic and literary figure, he has actively been involved in the promotion and preservation of Nepali literature, art, and cultural traditions for over 20 years. He holds a PhD in philosophy and has significantly contributed to the academic field of Nepal through his teaching at the university level doctor. Dr. Joshi has also served as an assistant professor at Kailani Multiple Campus in Hungary. In addition to his academic roles, he has been an advisor to the Nepal Journalists Federation and was actively involved in journalism. He served as a central committee member of the Nepal Press Union. Most recently, Dr. Joshi has taken on the responsibility of leading the Nepal Bharat International Literature Conference 2082, Nepal Bharat Antarashtriya Sahitya Sammelan तथा Dosro Pradeshik Kavita Mahotsav 2082. Moving on, our keynote speaker for today is Dr. Gusti Ketut Kurniasari, who is from Budi Luhur University, Indonesia. Dr. Gusti Ketut Kurniasari is a distinguished lecturer, a public speaking trainer for the government in the communication science field. She also teaches communication science program at the University of Budi Luhur, Indonesia. Her research focuses on media representation, minority identity, and tourism communication. Her investigation of the identity construction of Chinese Indonesian students and the creation of successful tourism communication tactics in Jakarta and noteworthy examples of her research. Additionally, she investigates cultural diversity in media with a focus in Southeast Asian animation. Finally, to welcome our guest of honor, Mr. Laxman Humagain, Chairman of Advertisement Board, Nepal. Mr. Laxman Humagain is a Nepali media executive and government official currently serving as the Chairman of the Advertisement Board, Nepal, which is responsible for overseeing and reforming the nation's advertising sector. A former general manager in Nepal television, he has played a key role in modernizing Nepal's media landscape and promoting transparency, innovation in advertising and broadcasting. Finally, we'd like to welcome Associate Dean Dr. Udop Pakaril, Associate Professor, Associate Dean to the Kathmandu School for Art. I'm really sorry for the meeting. We also acknowledge the presence of our professors and faculty members, Associate Professor Dr. Sudamshu Dahab, Associate Professor Mr. Sudarshan Assistant Professor Dr. Dinesh Kafle, Lecturer Mr. Nika Delulama, Lecturer Mr. Suvendra Shrestha, Lecturer Mr. Alok Lansal, Associate Professor Dr. Ramchandra Hodel, Research Assistant at the Quality and Assurance Accreditation Mr. Aditya Acharya, and Communication Assistant at the Department of Languages and Mass Communication, Ms. Manusha Casey. Ladies and gentlemen, let us once again welcome all our distinguished guests with a hearty round of applause. So now it's time for our national anthem. I request everyone to please rise from your seats to be a part of the anthem.
Thank you. We would now like to invite Ms. Pratisthan on the podium to deliver her welcome remarks. Please come forward to the stage.
Good morning and warm greetings to everyone present here today. Honorable Associate Dean, Mr. Udop Pakaril, sir, Head of Department of Languages and Mass Communication, Dr. Adhikari, Chief Guest, Dr. Joshi, Keynote Speaker, Dr. Gusti Ketut Kurniasari, Guest of Honor, Mr. Laxman Humagain, Associate Professors, Dr. Ramchandra Paudil, sir, and Dr. Sudamshu Dahab, sir, faculty members, scholars, and participants. It is with great honor that I, Pratisthan, a second-year Bachelor in Media Studies student, welcome you all to the National Seminar on Indigenous Research and Communication Theories, organized by the Department of Languages and Mass Communication of the University School of Arts. The seminar aims to bring indigenous research and communication theories into focused academic dialogue. It features paper presentations and discussions from students and scholars across 3 academic levels, bachelor's, master's, and PhD, and is structured around 3 key sessions. The first session, Philosophical Approaches to Communication, includes presentation from second-year Bachelor in Media Studies students. It explores the intersection of communication and philosophy through Eastern philosophical traditions, with the aim of rethinking conventional communication theories and proposing alternative models rooted in diverse philosophical frameworks. The second session, Communication Theories in Nepal and Asia, is led by first-year Master in Media Studies students. The session examines indigenous communication practices and philosophies across Asia with a focus on cultural, religious, and historical contexts.
Thank you for the start for your speech. We will now have the honor of sharing a few words from Associate Professor, Associate Dean of the Prajna, Sir, please come forward.
Hello, good morning. Chair of this inaugural session, Dr. Chief Guest, Dr. Joshi, Vice Chancellor, Sudurpaschim, Prajna, and Mr. Laxman, Humagain, Guest of Honor, Chairperson, Advertisement Board of Nepal. And I could see in online. Are you able to hear from us, madam? We have keynote speaker Dr. Gusti, Ketut, Kurniasari. That's a bit difficult to pronounce. Thank you, ma'am, to be here, and my colleagues, and large students and participants. It's an honor to be here for this inaugural session of this one-day seminar. This is one day. And I find it very interesting because of a couple of things. Number one, being within the School of Arts, I was not having this in my notice, but in a very low-key manner, you try to organize this, and it looks like a great event. I could see some 21 papers in different sessions, and also you could manage to have at least speakers and speakers from that group, and also you try to bring scholars and activists, and also some of the prominent figures from elsewhere within Nepal. That is kind of achievement I could acknowledge, and I should congratulate at least the Department of Language Mass Communication for this kind of engagement. And as you just listen this welcome remarks by one of the undergraduate students, I guess this is kind of opportunity for students, not only those who are going through undergraduate, but also masters and PhD, so that they will have sort of exposure and also kind of environment to learn from each other and from those kind of national and international perspective on various matters. If I try to go through this seminar title, it seems to be very broad. For example, indigenous research and communication skills. I try to look at it, whether it is indigenous research in communication skills, but you put and that made kind of this event a bit broader. And also, for example, I try to look at whether we confine to any geographical boundary, because indigenousness could be kind of contextual. And I guess somehow you refer to Asia, and having this keynote speaker from Indonesia might be kind of a gesture to locate this territory within Asia. But I don't know, might be, once we talk about indigenous, then might be we should be focusing on a bit smaller territory than that of territory like Asia. This might be one of the key takeaway point out of this seminar. And while I try to go through this title, for example, what is indigenous knowledge? Yes, definitely there is a definition of indigenous knowledge, but if you try to look at this title, indigenous research, then it is a bit tricky. We have to acknowledge this limitation of this indigenous research. For example, and generally it is said that it is indigenous led and engage. I try to Google it, and this Google helps us to understand what is indigenousness. Could be a research conducted by, grounded in and engaged with indigenous peoples, communities and knowledge systems. So indigenous research means the research conducted by, grounded in and engaged with indigenous people, community and knowledge system. That is what it said. Further, it emphasized indigenous perspective and also value throughout the research process. So this is a bit kind of demanding topic, and I hope kind of deliberation you will have in the coming three sessions. We will try to cover these kinds of investigations of indigenousness in Nepal. I also try to learn a bit about indigenousness, and in Nepal we try to use this term indigenous versus ethnic, indigenous and ethnic, as if these are interchangeable, interexchangeable, or these are synonyms. And if I try to define indigenous people or community, and I guess at least three criteria would be seen and acknowledged by the government and scholars. For example, number one, to be an ethnic community or indigenous community, one has to have their own language to communicate, their own language. And that language might be not as advanced as very defined language, but it should be at least in a dialectic form. That is number one. Number two, that very community should be having, at least historically, kind of governance system of discussionary law. Okay? One has to have customary practice of law to govern their government, govern their community. That is number two. And we added one, even if they have their language and they have customary law to govern, and if they don't have, we feel might be this is not a kind of way of defining indigenous people or ethnic community. So that was the third definition. So, but if I try to go elsewhere, for example, Europe, USA, then this ethnic community definition could be a bit otherwise. For example, if you go to Europe, they put all Asian as one of the ethnic communities. Within Nepal, we have had 145 in the last census, and now we have 148. But you see, for European, Asian are a single ethnic community. That very limitation of defining indigenousness has to be also acknowledged while talking about this kind of seminar. I try to go through this abstract collection as well, and I try to grab a couple of these themes as well out of 21 papers and this thing. I have two concerns. Yes, definitely we have to talk about indigenousness. We have to assert for our knowledge, our way of dealing with kind of society, and that is why customary practices and customary laws are very important. But having said that, we should not be that much emotional as well. We have to be critical on the kind of available documents we have in the name of indigenousness or indigenous research. I will take you to at least two concerns, and I will end up my welcome remarks. Number one, I am very much concerned about this Nyaya system. Mahatma Gandhi, in his very tiny book, KUSOA, tried to outline at least a couple of indigenous systems and tried to even compare with a kind of Western way of dealing with, along with this modernity. And in that, I always feel fascinating to refer these couple of things, but Nyaya is one of them. And he tried to compare with our Nyaya system. Largely was once a Nyaya. Yes, there were many limitations. Yes, it was patriarchal, largely male and very Abhijatya male would be right there. But Pancha Nyaya was kind of Nyaya where at least both culprit and victim could be presented before that very committee without having any delay. That is how, even if this committee was sort of biased in a way that could offer at least nyaya, it was very, it won't be having any, they won't be given any time to create kind of Prajna this lawyer and others try to call it now and submit to the court. So I guess might be while talking about this study of Nyaya philosophy, we might link together with those kind of our own practices, and definitely we have to acknowledge limitation, but also we have to articulate this kind of strength we have. And the second one, for example, there is one paper by Samir Dulal, who is going to study this Prithviraj Saha's interpretation. I have my own argument about that Abhishek. For example, yes, definitely our nation should have a sort of propaganda as well. Every nation has this. And we should acknowledge this Prithviraj Saha, these people, this, etc. But we have to have this critical check as well. As a researcher, being within this media and mass communication department, I guess we need to go beyond the kind of what others say as well, with profound research and articulation. For me, this is only hunch. That might not be true. But my hunch could be, for example, I recall, for example, Humagain. The first Humagain was this Surendra Kupala Humagain, and when I say first Humagain, and if you try to recall in this date, then that could be 1854 Humagain. That very document is not available in any library, any person's even house. I have not seen that original Humagain. But, and this is state law for 110 years. If that document is not available in Nepali arena, then how could this Prithviraj Saha's Divya, which is, I guess, at least from 80 plus years old than that of Humagain, be available elsewhere? So what's the problem? Why Divya is available and why Humagain is not available? Then might be Humagain, yes, might be a propaganda, we should acknowledge this. Divya might be a propaganda, we should acknowledge it. I said, every state has this propaganda, but we have to be critical. So there are many things to say regarding this indigenous knowledge, and these two are kind of anecdotes I try to share before you, just to create kind of academic environment you are going to have in the sessions. But again, this is kind of good initiative taken up by Department of Language and Mass Communication. I am very happy to have very many activities initiated by this very department, led by Dr. Advertisement.
Laxman, Humagain gets honor, Chairman Advertisement Board in Nepal. It is an honor for me to be able to join the seminar by Kathmandu University School of Art. Ladies and gentlemen, Hindu communication theory has not become a final year study in several universities in Indonesia, because most universities in Indonesia use more reference from Western theories. Of course, this condition is felt that because the culture and tradition that exist in Indonesia are very close to Hindu theories, not Western communication theories. Until Sadaritharana is still a new identity to explain human communication theory in Indonesia. Several universities in Indonesia began to introduce Sadaritharana as a reference for Hindu communication theory in a learning and research process related to the wisdom of local Hindu culture and Hindu-based digital media. That's why my picture on my screen right now, Sadaritharana as a new identity for Hindu communication theory in Indonesia. Ladies and gentlemen, however, there's a thousand is introduced as scholarship has been increasing. Scholars the East have realized how the heritage of ancient truth need to be applied to a scientific level so that it can be studied in school or university and can contribute to society. However, very often research or scholars still use framework or research pattern used in research using method and concept derived from the West, so that the results are unable to reveal the true nature of the problem under study. In other words, the ancient world is still hegemony by the thinking or way of thinking that developed in the West, and university in Indonesia have become an extension of the Western mindset, method, and approaches. Its application sometimes seen in practice, especially when associated with local cultural wisdom and Hindu tradition in Indonesia. This is understandable because the tradition of scientific and in-depth thinking was developed and filled promise after the Renaissance era, and research in Indonesia are accustomed to such method. Ladies and gentlemen, when you want to develop Hindu communication, what mechanism do you want to use? This is very important to ensure to provide direction for the journey of the Hindu Communication Science Department of Study program. Hopefully, Hindu Communication Science will have a different character from other communication theory. Observing the dominance of Western communication, there is now an emerging awareness in Asia and Africa to explore local wisdom so that local cultural identity is not eroded due to the swift Western influence of the global communication system. Or there is an effort to balance things between Western and Eastern tradition so that civilization runs more naturally, fairly, and more meaningfully. The awareness of finding ancient and African communication theory has long been at least reflected in the existence of scientific journal and learning lecture that rise Asian and African communication system or model, with Hindu-based university giving the system. As well as a variety of approaches or theory in carrying out social form of multi-directional and multi-role communication. Upon further examination, it turned out that Hindu communication has advantage and Western tradition, the non-linear. Hindu system of communication the theory and participate. It is not mean that seed or ideas of communication were absent from their literature and practice. Fear of duty accepted and literature, how many number of eyes as main source the communication proper. Sadari karana as a theory of generalization the model consists of some aspect Sahridaya, that is enforce sender and receiver Sahridaya, set of community and Babamun. And is the meaning of this, and Sarani, channel, Rasawadana, firstly the chef, decoding, interpreting, and the basic, and finally accepting the rasa. And then the sa is the meaning is knowing, it's and each party involved in communication process attempt to reach a state of oneness, communicatively, commonality, generalized, universality, called Sahridayata. With the state and the different various fields of life can be transcended into the mutual understanding, safe oneness or communality, has been achieved through the process of negotiation, meaning in that with the high nationality called is Brahman is in the form of Raja. The model does not only enforce in material aspect of communication but also spiritual one in aid of this spiritual. This model also non-linear in the nature. Thank you for listening.
Thank you very much, Dr. Kurniasari, for your enlightening and inspiring keynote address. We are truly grateful for the time and expertise you've shared with us today regarding SMC and Hindu communication. Now, I'd like to take this moment to introduce our guest of honor, Mr. Laxman Humagain, the chairman to the Advertisement Board of Nepal. Please come forward to deliver his speech, sir.
विज्ञापन घटना साथै यो चाहिँ बजारको व्यवस्था गर्छ यो पर्सुएसिभ कम्युनिकेसनको आधारमा इन्डिजिनियस कम्युनिकेसनको कुरा गरिरहेको छ र यो पर्सुएसिभ कम्युनिकेसन र यो कम्युनिकेसनले आइडेन्टिटीलाई इन्फ्लुएन्स गर्छ हामी यति मात्र भनौँ कि पोइन्ट अफ सेलमा जब कोही मान्छे जान्छ र पोइन्ट अफ सेलमा गइसकेपछि आइडेन्टिटी डिसिजन गर्ने बेलामा उनलाई चाहिँ के इन्फ्लुएन्स गर्छ भन्दा एडभर्टिजमेन्टले गर्छ र एउटा यस्तो सेक्टर छ जहाँ विज्ञापन गर्ने जस्तो तपाईँ हाइड्रो पावरको कुरा गर्नुहुन्छ अथवा चाहिँ युनिभर्सिटीको कुरा काठमाडौँ विश्वविद्यालय राम्रो छ काठमाडौँ विश्वविद्यालयको पढाइ राम्रो छ भनेर भनियो भने त्यहाँ एडभर्टिजमेन्ट गरिँदैन र यस्तो सेक्टरको लागि चाहिँ पब्लिक रिलेसन काम गर्छ त्यसैले यो दुईटै सेक्टरहरू चाहिँ हामीले आइसोलेसनमा छ त्यसैले मेरो अनुरोध यति मात्रै हो कि विज्ञापनको विषयमा भन्दाखेरि यहाँ ब्याचलर्स थर्ड सेमेस्टरमा पढाएको रहेछ र मास्टर्समा सकिसकेको मलाई त्यति हामीले आयो र धेरै ठाउँमा चाहिँ यो विज्ञापनको एउटा च्याप्टर राखिएको छ र सामान्य रूपमा चाहिँ राखेको छ र अझ भन्ने हो भने विज्ञापनको रेगुलेसन त अलिक महत्त्वपूर्ण पक्ष हो सम्पूर्ण विज्ञापन खास गरेर विज्ञापनको कारणले गर्दा एउटा मात्र उदाहरण थियो रेडियो नेपाल अलि जोशी सरको पनि रेडियो नेपालमा काम गरेको उनीहरूले नाम पनि नेपाल टेलिभिजनमा पनि आएछ रेडियो नेपालको एउटा विज्ञापन आउँथ्यो कसैलाई साथीहरूको कुरा गऱ्यो भने हर्लिक्स खानुहोस् अरू कुनै चिज गर्नु पर्दैन र त्यो हर्लिक्स आएपछि त अरू घरमा भएको सागपात यो सागपात दुध दही के गोराखाट एउटा दुर्गम ठाउँको एकजना लेडिजले चाहिँ सधैँ 2 चम्चा हर्लिक्स खुवाउनु रहेछ 50 केजी खुवाउनु रहेछ र त्यसपछि त्यो बच्चा चाहिँ बिरामी भएर चाहिँ अहिले जरीकोट अस्पतालमा आयो। जरीकोट अस्पतालले उपचार गर्न सकेपछि र वीर अस्पतालमा गइसकेपछि थाहा भयो कि त्यसलाई डायबिटिस कुपोषण भएको रहेछ। र अनि त्यहाँ डक्टरले सोद्धाखेरि तपाईँले किन सागपात दुधहरू खुवाउनुहुन्न भन्दाखेरि चाहिँ उनले जवाफ दिएको कुरा चाहिँ रेडियोले चाहिँ सधैँ अफिस गर्नु भनेको थियो। मैले अस्ति 2 चम्चा खाएकै छु, मेरो बच्चा त ठिक हुनु भयो। मान्छेको दिमागमा अब हामीले हाइड्रोग्राफिक मेथडलाई यहाँ आएर रिलेट गऱ्यो भने अथवा चाहिँ मान्छेको लेभलतिर हामीले यहाँ रिलेट गऱ्यो भने मान्छेको दिमागमा मिडियाको कति ठुलो प्रभाव परिरहेको हुन्छ र कस्तो खालको पर्सुएसन गर्छ भन्ने कुरा यो त्यहाँ हो। त्यति बेला मैले त्यसलाई समाचारको रूपमा प्रयोग गरेको थिएँ। आज म विज्ञापनको उदाहरणको रूपमा प्रयोग गर्छु। त्यसैले मेरो अनुरोध के हो भने हामीले कम्युनिकेसनमा हामी ठुलो कम्युनिकेटर हुन्छौँ। हामीले गरेका कम्युनिकेसनहरूले आम पब्लिकमा चाहिँ के इफेक्ट गरिरहेका छन् हामी स्टडी गर्दैन। कुरा विज्ञापन अहिले भर्खरै एउटा अपेक्षित विज्ञापनमा कुरा गर्छ 30 दिनको अपेक्षको दुधको पैसा तिर्नुपर्ने 32 दिनको के भनेर अपेक्ष आएपछि यो बच्चाको निर्देश अब दुधभन्दा राम्रो चाहिँ अपेक्ष हो भनेर हामी विज्ञापन गर्छौँ। यस्ता कुरा विज्ञापन रोक्ने काम पनि यही गर्नु पर्छ र यो मुलुकमा यस्ता कामहरू हामीले गरेका छौँ। त्यसैले मैले यदि हामी कहाँ विज्ञापनको कोर्समा पढाइ हुन्छ भने अहिले बनेका नयाँ नियम कानुनहरू हामीले आज संविधान ल्याएका छौँ। विज्ञापन ऐन बनेको छ, नियमहरू संशोधन गरेका छौँ, आन्दोलन निर्धारण गरेका छौँ, विज्ञापनलाई अब परीक्षण गर्नुपर्ने व्यवस्था ल्याएका छौँ। लगायतका थुप्रै अब नेसनल पोलिसीहरू राख्ने हामी जारी गर्छौँ। त्यसैले हामीले धेरै कामहरू यो सेक्टरमा अगाडि बढाएका छौँ र यसलाई पनि कोर्समा इन्कर्पोरेट गरेर यहाँहरूले यसलाई लिङ्केज गरिदिनु भने यो ग्रुपको लागि र खास गरिकन मान्छेले सानो एउटा स्टार्टअप बिजनेस सुरु गर्छ भने त्यो बिजनेसलाई ग्रो गर्ने अपर्च्युनिटी दिन्छ र त्यो बिजनेस ग्रो हो भने मुलुकको अर्थतन्त्र ग्रो हुन्छ। त्यसैले मुलुकको अर्थतन्त्रको रिफ्लेक्सन पनि एडभर्टाइजमेन्ट मार्केटमा चाहिँ देखिएको हुन्छ। त्यसैले यसलाई पनि इन्कर्पोरेट गरौँ भन्ने मेरो अनुरोध छ र मेरो एउटा अर्को सन्देश यति मात्रै हो कि विज्ञापनको विषयमा कसैले रिसर्च गर्नु र त्यो रिसर्चलाई हामीले केही सहयोग गर्छौँ। विज्ञापन बोर्डको पोलिसी ल्याएको छ, युनिभर्सिटीबाट हामीले बचार गरेका छौँ। यहाँ युनिभर्सिटीहरूले यति चुनाव छ कि हामी पत्र पठाउँछौँ तर कहाँ पुग्छ डिपार्टमेन्टमा पुग्दैन, स्टुडेन्टलाई थाहा हुँदैन। त्यसै गरी यही अवसर लिएर मैले यहाँलाई अनुरोध गरेँ यदि तपाईँहरू एडभर्टिजमेन्टको विषयमा खास गरेर एडभर्टिजमेन्टको सेक्टरमा तपाईँले मास्टर्समा एमफिलमा र पिएचडीमा रिसर्च गर्नुहुन्छ भने विज्ञापन बोर्डले उपयुक्त लागेका छनौट भएका थेसिसहरूलाई हामी अवार्ड गर्छौँ र यो वर्ष हामीले गएको वर्ष 4वटालाई अवार्ड गरेका छौँ र एउटा कर्णाली माइनर संस्कृत विश्वविद्यालयको 3वटा विश्वविद्यालय लगाएका छौँ र अर्को वर्ष पनि हामी त्यो काम गर्छौँ र यहाँहरूले पनि एडभर्टिजमेन्टको विषयमा रिसर्च गरिदिनु, आर्टिकलहरू लेखिदिनु, एडभर्टिजमेन्टको बारेमा चाहिँ नलेज राखिदिनु र चाहिँ खास गरिकन चाहिँ सम्पूर्ण विज्ञापनले आयुर्वेदको विज्ञापनले आयुर्वेदको औषधि सबै रोगीको लाग्छ एलोपैथी त जानै पर्दैन भन्ने काममा सम्पूर्ण विज्ञापनहरू राखेका छन्। अब त्यसलाई रोक्यो भने मिडिया कराउँछ, मिडिया फेरि जाइरहेको छ। अब मिडियाको ब्याकबोन नै फेरि एडभर्टिजमेन्ट नै हो। मिडिया इन्डस्ट्रीले लाग्छ अवस्था छ। त्यसैले हामीले धेरै खराब गर्न सकेका छौँ। नियमन कि बजार विस्तार भन्ने कुरामा हामी अवगत छौँ। यद्यपि मेरो एउटै अनुरोध के हो भने एडभर्टिजमेन्ट पनि एउटा स्टडीको रिजल्ट हो। पब्लिक रिलेसनलाई नेपालमा हामीले इस्टाब्लिसै गर्न सकेका छैनौँ। आज यहीँबाट अनुरोध गर्छु पब्लिक रिलेसनलाई नेपालमा इस्टाब्लिस गर्नु छ र एडभर्टिजमेन्टलाई मार्केटलाई ग्रो गर्नु छ र सँगसँगै चाहिँ यसको बारे तपाईँ यो पर्सुएसिभ कम्युनिकेसन हो र यो कम्युनिकेसनले इमेज बिल्डिङको काम गर्छ, तपाईँको ब्रान्ड बिल्डिङको काम गर्छ र हाम्रा ब्रान्डहरू लोकल ब्रान्डहरू इन्टरनेसनल मार्केटमा जान सक्छन् र ती इन्टरनेसनल मार्केटमा जाँदाखेरि ग्रुप बनेको। त्यसैले यो सेक्टरलाई पनि एउटा मेजर सेक्टरको रूपमा अध्यापन होस् भन्ने अनुरोध गर्दै म यहाँहरूको निमन्त्रणाका लागि आभार व्यक्त गर्छु र यो सेमिनारको सफलताको शुभकामना व्यक्त गर्छु।
Thank you very much, sir, for your words. आजको यस कार्यक्रमलाई थप सफल गर्ने हामी माझ आजको कार्यक्रमका प्रमुख अतिथि डाक्टर टी.एन. जोशी हुनुहुन्छ। म डाक्टर जोशीलाई कृपया स्टेजमा आइपुग्दै शब्दबाट अनुरोध गर्छु।
धन्यवाद कार्यक्रम सञ्चालकज्यू। यो काठमाडौँ विश्वविद्यालयले धेरै सम्झिरहन्छ मलाई। बेला बेलामा यस्ता खालका रिसर्च अनुसन्धानका अत्यन्त गहन कार्यक्रमहरू गरिरहेछ। विशेष गरी यो मौलिक अनुसन्धान र सञ्चार सिद्धान्तका बारेमा आयोजना गरेको जुन यो सेमिनार छ, यस समारोहका आदरणीय सभापति, मेरा परम मित्र, हाम्रो एसोसिएट प्रोफेसर डाक्टर नेलोपल अधिकारी सर, कार्यक्रममा उपस्थित राष्ट्रिय विज्ञापन बोर्डका कार्यकारी निर्देशक डाक्टर हुमागाइन सर, युनिभर्सिटीका डिन सर, अन्य हाम्रो प्रोफेसर साहबहरू, यो सेमिनारमा विभिन्न क्षेत्रबाट देश विदेशबाट जोडिनुभएका सबै अतिथि महानुभावहरूलाई म सुदूरपश्चिम प्रदेश सरकारको एउटा महत्त्वपूर्ण अङ्ग, प्राथमिक अङ्ग, सुदूरपश्चिम प्रज्ञा प्रतिष्ठानको भाइस चान्सलरको हैसियतबाट यो सेमिनारको सफलताको शुभकामना व्यक्त गर्न चाहन्छु र रिसर्चसँग जोडिएका, अनुसन्धान गरिरहेका, अनुसन्धानमा तल्लीन रहनुभएका र अनुसन्धानको अन्तिम चरणमा पुगिरहनुभएका सबै विद्यार्थीहरूलाई म सफलताको शुभकामना व्यक्त गर्न चाहन्छु। यो रिसर्च भन्ने विषय कस्तो रहेछ भने यो अनुसन्धान जति गरे पनि सकिँदैन। मैले जीवनमा लामो अनुसन्धान गर्दा गर्दै आज यहाँ पुग्यो। निर्मल सर्वमा 50 सालदेखि हामी सँगसँगै छौँ। त्यसो भएको हुनाले म सुदूरपश्चिमबाट आज यो कार्यक्रमलाई मलाई सम्झिनु, एउटा सुदूरपश्चिमबाट त्यहाँ बोलाएर सिक्वेसको सम्मान दिनुभयो। म युनिभर्सिटी परिवारलाई धन्यवाद दिन चाहन्छु। आज सुदूरपश्चिम भन्ने बित्तिकै राज्यको नजरमा र खास गरी काठमाडौँको नजरमा अलिबजेलमा छ। यहाँबाट झन्डै 800 किलोमिटर दूरीमा पर्छ सुदूरपश्चिम। आज सुदूरपश्चिम, आज देशमा संघीयता आएको छ। संघीयता के हो? हाम्रो पहिचान। त्यो पहिचानले के जोडिएको छ? हाम्रो भाषा, हाम्रो साहित्य, हाम्रो कला, हाम्रो संस्कृति, हाम्रो सभ्यता, हाम्रो इतिहास। यही मौलिक कुरालाई जोगाउनका लागि आज काठमाडौँ युनिभर्सिटी र खास गरी स्कुल अफ आर्ट्सले जुन महत्त्वपूर्ण कार्यहरू गर्दैछ, त्यसका लागि म यसको पूर्ण सफलताका लागि शुभकामना गर्न चाहन्छु। म विद्यार्थीहरूलाई के अनुरोध गर्न चाहन्छु भने तपाईहरु रिसर्च गर्नुहोस्, अनुसन्धान गर्नुहोस्, तर आफ्नो मौलिकतामाथि विशेष जोड दिएर त्यसको मौलिक पहिचानलाई बाहिर कस्तो पार्ने गरी अहिले धेरै हामीले यो अनुसन्धानका बारेमा हेरेका छौँ। अहिलेको अनुसन्धान पनि सधैँको देखिरहेका छन्। त्यसो भएको हुनाले यो सधैँ रूपमा गरिएका अनुसन्धानहरू भोलिको चाहिँ लाभकारी हुँदैन। त्यसलाई एउटा अनुसन्धान गराउने डिपार्टमेन्ट पनि आज लेभल सरले हुनुहुन्छ, डिन सर हुनुहुन्छ, विशेषज्ञता भिन्न यो क्षेत्रमा दिग्गज व्यक्तित्व आज युनिभर्सिटी हुनुहुन्छ। उहाँहरूले कमसेकम विद्यार्थीहरूलाई त्यसको चाहिँ गहिराइसम्म पुगेर त्यो अनुसन्धानलाई एउटा गहिरो रूपमा आएर भोलिको पिँढीले कमसेकम त्यसबाट केही लाभ हासिल गर्न सकोस्। म तपाईँहरूलाई जानकारी दिन्छु, मैले गौरव पर्व विद्यालय गरेको। गौरव पर्व भन्ने बित्तिकै आज सुदूरपश्चिमको झल्को आउँछ। देउडा भन्ने बित्तिकै आज सुदूरपश्चिमको झल्को आउँछ। मैले के ठान गरेँ, आज सुदूरपश्चिमको एउटा महत्त्वपूर्ण राष्ट्रिय चाड गौरव पर्वलाई मैले रिसर्च गर्नुपर्छ। यो विषयमा 7 वर्ष लगाएर मैले एउटा विद्यालय गर्ने एउटा अवसर पाएँ। खास गरी गौरव पर्व एउटा पौराणिक सन्दर्भसँग जोडिएको एउटा विशेष पर्व हो। यो पर्वका विषयमा मेरा प्रोफेसर डाक्टर काठमाडौँका प्रोफेसर डाक्टरको सानिध्यमा रहेर जुन अनुसन्धान गर्ने मैले मौका पाएँ, उहाँहरूका यी झन्डै 700 पेजको रिसर्चमा तयार गर्ने अवसर पाएँ। आज त्यो रिसर्च मलाई त्यो रिसर्च गरिसकेपछि कस्तो खालको फिल भयो भने मैले साँच्चै एउटा नयाँ विषयमा, राम्रो विषयमा अनुसन्धान गरेको रहेछु। कमसेकम नेपालको एउटा मौलिक संस्कृतिलाई बचाउने दिशामा काम गरेको रहेछु भन्ने फिल भएको छ। आज देश विदेशबाट कमसेकम गौरव पर्व र सुदूरपश्चिमको कल्चरल बारेमा एक कुरा जान्ने कुराको अवसर आयो भने देश विदेशका मान्छेहरू मसँग सम्पर्क गर्नुहुन्छ। मैले आफ्नो कुरा राख्नुमा पाइरहेको छु। आज मेरा थिसिसहरू कमसेकम काठमाडौँ विश्वविद्यालयमा, नेपाल संस्कृत विश्वविद्यालयमा, हिमालय विश्वविद्यालयमा, सुदूरपश्चिमका धेरै युनिभर्सिटीहरूमा राखेका छन् र त्यसलाई किताबका रूपमा पनि हामीले प्रकाश गरेका छौँ। त्यसैले सुदूरपश्चिमलाई कमसेकम यो भाषिक र सांस्कृतिक हिसाबले हामी माथि पुग्नका लागि अहिले लागिरहेका छौँ। अस्ति भर्खरै मात्रै हामीले इन्टरनेसनल सेमिनार, अन्तर्राष्ट्रिय साहित्य सम्मेलन हामीले सम्पन्न गरेर म यहाँ आउँदैछु। काठमाडौँबाट धेरै साथीहरू जोड्नुभएको थियो, प्रोफेसरहरू जोड्नुभएको थियो। त्यसो भएको हुनाले म सबै विद्यार्थी भाइ बहिनीहरूलाई कमसेकम यो रिसर्चको गहिराइमा पुगेर हाम्रो मौलिक संस्कृतिलाई, मौलिक सभ्यतालाई, मौलिक विषयवस्तुलाई
माथि उठाएको यो प्रकारले अनुसन्धानलाई एउटा गरियो अनुसन्धान कार्यक्रम सक्नुभयो भने हाम्रा यस्ता खालका सेमिनारहरू पक्कै पनि एउटा महत्त्वपूर्ण र ओजपूर्ण हुन्छ भन्ने मलाई लागिरहेको छ। यो महत्त्वपूर्ण अवसरका लागि म विशेष गरी विमल मणि अधिकारीहरूलाई म धन्यवाद पनि दिन चाहन्छु। म चाँडै फेरि हामी सुदूरपश्चिममा एउटा अर्को एउटा कार्यक्रम गर्ने हामी तयारी लागेका छौँ। म काठमाडौँ विश्वविद्यालयको चाँडै सम्झेर तपाईँलाई बोलाउने तथा सहकारी गर्ने एउटा प्रतिबद्धता व्यक्त गर्दै यो कार्यक्रममा मलाई सम्झिएको र प्रमुख अतिथिको रूपमा सम्मान दिनुभएको पुनः म सबैलाई काठमाडौँ विश्वविद्यालयलाई धन्यवाद दिँदै आफ्नो छोटो वक्तव्य बुझाउँदै यो सेमिनारको पूर्ण सफलताको शुभकामना गर्दछु। धन्यवाद। नमस्कार।
धेरै धन्यवाद डक्टर जोशी। स्वीकार गरेर आउनुभएको छ, धन्यवाद व्यक्त गर्न सक्छु। Now it's time for the photo session. I'd like to request all participants and guests as well as faculty members to please come forward for the photo. Okay,